else to do it myself, and I would just black out. I had to take my own opportunity.
What's up, world? I'm out here for a run, practicing that social distancing. I couldn't sit inside, plus, I'm trying to run more to get in that ring shape back when things get to normal. So I'm out here getting ready to film episode 3 of Mind of the Maniac. Today, we are going to talk about me breaking into the pro wrestling business and actually jumping into a lot of stories people have been asking me about for years. One of the many questions I get is, Joe Gacy, how did you break into pro wrestling? This year is going to be about 14 years I've been in pro wrestling. Much like a lot of the people that are actually in the business now, it all started with a backyard wrestling company. Me and my friends used to do backyard wrestling, of course. I actually might do a separate video on that at another time. So it all started there. Fast forward to my brother, who backyard wrestled with us, gets a job at a nuclear power plant in New Jersey, ends up meeting a guy named Lobo. Well, of course, that's not his real name, but ends up being Lobo from CZW fame. And one thing leads to another. He comes out and meets everybody, and then we all meet John Zandig, the owner of Combat Zone Wrestling. So the first time we met John Zandig, the group of 15 of us actually showed up to our first live CZW event, which was a show called an Afternoon of Main Events. This was actually the first show after Cage Invest 7. So we met up with Lobo. He brought us into the show, and we met Zandig.
What happened? What do you mean what happened? What are you, blind? Jesus! There was 5 of them! It took 5 of them! Justice Pain! Hate Club! Oh, I thought Hate Club's dead! Nick Gage! Nate Hatred! Who do you think you are? Nobody does this to Zandig! Nobody does this to Whitebeater! Zandig, Whitebeater, Nick Mondo! We are the most ultraviolet force on the face of the earth! Oh my! Oh!
Zandig came up to the group of us. Like I said, there was 15 of us. And the first thing he said to all of us was, "Backyarders. I love backyarders. No fear." So, all of us being huge CZW fans at the time were pretty obsessed and pretty stunned meeting Zandig, and of course him saying that the first time we met him. After that, we ended up actually going to Lobo's engagement party shortly thereafter, and Zandig was there. And he talked to all of us about joining the CZW school, which at the time was actually conjoined with the Chikara Wrestle Factory. So it was all one school, and they were trying to figure out how to bring us in. Zandig was planning on breaking away and starting his own CZW school again, like he had when he started the company. I don't think anyone on the Chikara side knew of this at the time, but we were very anxious to get in the ring, so we kept pushing and pushing to start training, and we didn't know that Zandig was planning on waiting. So one night, all 15 of us actually show up to a class with the go-ahead from Lobo, and we ended up doing a semi full training night semi-tryout with Chris Hero. I remember his face walking in. He normally had a class of maybe 2 or 3 people, and Chris Hero walks in and sees all 15 of these guys, untrained and willing to get in the ring and do anything he asked us. And that night we definitely went hard. Side note story about that engagement party. We just met Zandig, so, you know, we were very obsessed with him. And I remember standing at the food table, and it was just me. And I'm loading up my plate, and I don't see a bowl of egg salad. So I go to walk away. Zandig looks at me and goes, "What? No egg salad?" So me being me, in my mind go, maybe he made it. I don't want to not have any of John Zandig's egg salad. So I loaded half of my plate up with it and proceed to say, "Oh, I didn't see it there. I love egg salad." At the time, I don't think I did, but you know what? I actually love egg salad now, so thanks, Zandig. From there, we basically just wanted to train. Besides that one night with Chris Hero, haven't heard anything about a school opening or anything like that. We were continuing to do our backyard, and we just wanted to get in the ring, and we wanted to train. We were very hungry, all 15 of us at the time. We were very naive, and we assumed at the time that, we didn't need a lot of training, and we would kind of, be fast-tracked to CZW. And boy, were we wrong in one way and right in another. So this actually led up to one of the most infamous things in my career, Tournament of Death 5, when I wrestled George W. Boss.
Well, Chrissy, I'll give him some slack because they are trying out for the Chris Cash Memorial Scholarship Fund, but I wouldn't say that the smartest thing in the world would be wearing this much clothes on such a hot day.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I believe it was a Friday, the day before Tournament of Death 5. I remember I was about to get a shower, and my brother calls me and goes, "Hey, Lobo wants to know if you want to wrestle Andy at Tournament of Death tomorrow." And me being the backyarder I was, flipped out and was super pumped for it. Being naive to the wrestling business at the time, of course, if I could go back and change that moment, I probably would have. I would not have done that show knowing what I know now. It made me look real bad, and it took me a couple years to get past that stigma I had ever since then. So me and George W. Boss, aka a friend named Andy, who backyard wrestled with us in our group, drove to Smyrna, Delaware, and had a match. We were put on right before the main event, the finals of Tournament of Death, and we were there probably in front of almost 1,000 people, untrained, not knowing anything, and we are super nervous. I wear my typical backyard gear, which was a jumpsuit and work boots, and we're getting ready for this match. I remember Andy going up to Zandig and going, "Can we use any weapons?" And John kind of looked at us like this and pointed to the fans' weapons pile and goes, "Pick out 2 weapons." So Andy picks out a trash can. I pick out a tack bat. So we go out and have this match, one of the worst matches in the history of pro wrestling.
I mean, this guy, he's wearing corduroy pants.
Yeah, pretty posh.
Probably.
No, this is a matchup with the crowd. It's a very intimidating thing, man. Go ahead, Chrissy, pick me a winner.
not give you an answer here. I mean, I know little to no information about both these guys.
He's going for a moonsault. I believe that would be the first moonsault we've seen this afternoon.
I think he's taking too much time.
I think so too.
And there's a moment in this match where I decide to take off my jumpsuit.
It's like George W. just went down to the polls. Now off comes the suit.
Here's the thing. I usually wear wrestling shoes when I wear the jumpsuit. So when I took off the jumpsuit, I used to do this in the backyard, and it would come off, and it would be like a moment of intensity, kind of like similar to when you take your straps down on a singlet. I didn't realize I wasn't wearing my wrestling shoes. I was wearing work boots. So the leg holes of the jumpsuit did not fit over the work boots. So I was already in the midst of trying to get it off, and I got stuck in my jumpsuit.
Chrissy, he's tangled up in his own suit.
That's a shame.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
That is a shame. Like I said, he's wasting way too much time.
Yes.
Now he's tangled up in his clothes.
I got made fun of this for a very long time. And the reason I actually took the jumpsuit off is because I knew I was taking the tack bat, and I didn't want to take it to the jumpsuit because I thought I would look like a bitch. From what I understood, there were a lot of the boys in the back that didn't really know why we were on the show, didn't know who we were, of course, and got really pissed off that we were out there. But I think it only got worse when we were booked on the Chris Cash Memorial Show. September 2006. And Zandig decided to put me and Andy, aka George W. Boss, on the show again, only this time it was going to be a tag team match. I tagged with my friend LJ, who, of course, we backyarded with. Andy tagged with my brother Phil, who backyarded with us. I remember during the match, the fans were cheering for George W. Boss, and they didn't remember Phil's name, so they just called him Black T-Shirt.
Show pay tribute to Chris Cash here on their own dime, here for the first time. Like Zandig said, it's not about enemies or...
So we had this tag team match, if you can call it that. We didn't know a damn thing, and we were, out there doing all the backyard wrestling moves we knew.
Had his first opportunity in CCW. Chris Cash, of course, went to school, and I may be wrong, but off the top of my head, big leg drop. And a lot of raw ability. But Chris about that matchup. Well, you know what? Really raw. Very solid. Everybody knows how it's here in CCW. Just even justifying with a premier independent company. We basically went out there and put on the best match that we knew how.
and we had no business being out there. There were, I believe I was told that there were many guys in the back that were ready to run out and kind of jump us. We ended up hitting, I think Andy ended up hitting Messiah's finisher mid-match. It took a very long time for me to break that stigma because a lot of the CZW fans at the time only remembered that. So they associated me with George W. Boss. That was the last time that we wrestled on the shows, untrained. Showing up doing a show in that arena for my first time was nerve-wracking, and I went in and did an untrained match at the now 2300 arena, former ECW arena. I wish my first match in that building was on different terms. So take this for what it's worth. I like to tell people now that the most powerful word in wrestling is no. If there's something you don't want to do, don't be afraid to say no. Now, there is a difference between not doing something because you are uncomfortable with it and paying your dues. Paying your dues is a whole separate thing that everyone new to the business needs to do. I did it. I'm going to go more into detail about it later in this video, but that's something that's expected of you. Now, I wish I was a little smarter at the time, and when we were asked to wrestle on these shows untrained, I wish I said no. Of course, the position I was in no position to do so. Me being a 19-year-old kid, only wanting to be a CZW wrestler, and being asked by the owner of Combat Zone Wrestling, John Zandig himself, to wrestle on this show. How could you say no to that? Little did I know, later, we eventually do get into training, and Andy does, I think, 2 days, maybe 2 weeks of training. And I remember this plain as day. We're taking chest bumps in the corner, or Bret Hart bumps, where you run and hit your chest in the turnbuckle. We did those a couple times, and Andy took a couple, got out of the ring, went to the bathroom, left, and that was it. George W. Boss walked out on free wrestling training. So from there, I start training, officially training. There were supposed to be 15 of us joining the pro wrestling school, which was basically our whole backyard wrestling crew. Only a couple of us actually came, and then only a couple of us actually stayed. So the people that actually stayed were me, Alex Colon, Ryan Slater, LJ Cruz, and my brother. It's the 5 of us basically, devoted all of our time to wrestling and training. We trained 3 times a week, and then once a month we did the CZW shows. And from there, we started with our basics, learned about the wrestling business. We trained under John Dahmer for the CZW Academy. We also had a little help from DJ Hyde at the time. Drew Gulak was also helping at the time. He was still not really like a full trainer yet, but he was passing his knowledge that he was learning from Chikara and CZW to us. Training was hard. There were days where I wondered if I'd be able to continue. Alex Colon didn't drive at the time, so I would have to pick him up, drive an hour the opposite direction, pick up Alex Colon, drive back the hour, and then maybe another hour or half an hour to training, and then drive him home afterwards. Sometimes collectively we would have $20 to our name, and all we wanted was to go to training together. That's why me and Alex actually initially teamed up at the beginning with Tag Team GNC. When we started traveling, we traveled together. I actually drove Alex Colon to his first booking besides CZW. Go to training, that was 3 days a week, and then hit the dollar menu at Wendy's on the way home. Sometimes if we had a good week and had a little bit more money, We would hit Denny's, get those milkshakes. You know, looking back, it was really hard days, but you know, we learned so much, and those days made us what we are today, and I wouldn't change a damn thing, to be completely honest. It was actually John Zandig's brother's car garage where they worked on cars. So there were times where they're in there revving engines and working on cars while we're, you know, doing all these workouts and breathing in real deep and breathing in, you know, all the exhaust from all these cars. Humble beginnings, though. You know, there were days where we did floor bumps and learned respect. We got beat up just to earn our way into the ring. We got pushed and pushed and pushed with workouts before we can even step foot in the ring. I'll be honest in saying I think a lot of students nowadays have it a lot easier than we did in the beginning. Me being a trainer now, I see both sides of it. Obviously, you want people to enjoy pro wrestling. My whole thing is you also don't want to waste your time on somebody. So I feel like you should have to push people to earn their way into a school before you actually really commit some time to them, because you don't want to give them a lot of time and then they end up quitting. I was so committed to training. I remember a certain day, I ended up having to go to court for a speeding ticket. Court was maybe about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Training usually starts at 6:30. And I just remember calling Drew Gulak and telling him, hey, I had to go to court. I'm gonna be a little late. So I actually went all the way from the court and went all the way to training. I got about an hour or 2 hours in that night. Put all my time and effort into training 3 days a week, setting up rings, breaking rings down, pretty much just committing every ounce of my life to pro wrestling. You know, students out there now, just remember, you get what you put into it, meaning nothing's going to be handed to you, and that might not necessarily be your fault. If you are putting the time in, you're going to get something out of it. If you can't and you have things in your life you need to handle, your priorities, that's fine. Figure your life out before you commit yourself to wrestling. But just remember, if you're not committing your life to this, you're only going to get what you give. And if you want certain spots and you're not committing, you're not going to get them, or they're not going to come easy. So we were working very, very hard. There turned out to be an opportunity on a show for Maven Bentley, the Maven Bentley Association in Bristol, Pennsylvania. This was at a high school that Niles Young at the time actually substituted at. So I believe he set something up, and me and LJ were booked against each other in our first real official singles match. I was very nervous. I remember this day, you know, it being my first real match. LJ actually picked me up and we drove out to Bristol together. We got there late, so the ring was set up already, so shame on us. And we put this match together. I remember not having gear, so me and DJ had to convince John Dahmer to lend me a pair of his pleather pants that I wore on top of a singlet. So me and LJ did this match, and apparently it came off really well. I remember DJ being super happy with it. We were first on the show, and it was very simple, very basic, but we played our parts very well, and it came off good. The crowd loved it. Again, this was the first match on the show, so they didn't really know what to expect at the time. A couple months into training, which felt, really good to me, but like I said, we busted our ass 3 days a week trying to get opportunities like this. So we finally did it. After the show, we felt very accomplished. A lot of people on the show enjoyed it. And then me and LJ broke the ring down ourselves and loaded it into the truck with just us two. And then, the summer went by. Me, LJ, and Alex were still working very hard. And we had an opportunity a year later, after my untrained match at the Chris Cash Memorial Show, the second annual, to have our real first trained match on the CZW show. So me, LJ, and Alex had a triple threat match, which was basically put together for us by the help of DJ, Black G's, and actually Nick Burke. At this time, I was trying to shake that stigma of being the untrained guy that wrestled George W. Boss at Tournament of Death, which was very hard to do. I'm not gonna lie. It even took me a couple years to shake off that student stigma at CZW. So we had our first match, our debut match, me, Alex, LJ. Honestly, I was super happy to do it with them guys. Obviously, me and LJ have known each other for a while. Me and Alex have known each other for a while. And for us to debut all together on CZW meant the world to me. I didn't know anything. I was very naive. And I feel like a lot of people break into wrestling are the same way. So I try in my classes that I teach to break people of that and share some of my experiences that I've had. I only want people breaking in now to kind of learn from some of the mistakes I made to make it easier for them. Luckily, we were taught respect from the beginning. One of the big things that we learned was keep your mouth shut, your ears and eyes open, meaning, listen, don't talk. When you're new into the business, just take advice from everybody. And I think the way we were taught to act in a locker room helped us immensely, and I can't thank DJ enough for doing that for all of us. If you're new breaking into the business, please show respect. Do not disrespect anybody. Learn from everybody in whatever locker room you're in. Learn everything you can. Learn from all the people you can. Don't be afraid to travel. Go everywhere you can. Learn every style there is. Get in the ring as much as you can. Work. I promise you, and I've heard this before, and I didn't believe it, but the more you work, people will notice. The more you pay your dues, people will notice. And the more people notice, you're going to get way more opportunities than maybe some of the other guys that don't. And also, don't get discouraged, because some people learn quicker than others, and everyone has their own journey. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Only worry about yourself. Don't sit there and go, well, this guy's doing this and that and that. Worry about yourself. If you sit there worrying about everyone else all the time, you're only going to be worried about everyone else. And guess what? You're just going to watch these guys pass you by. They're going to get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity unless you're focusing on yourself. You need to focus on yourself to make yourself better. If you compare yourself to everyone else, you're just going to be stuck in the same rut. Believe me, I was there. I've been there, and for maybe a good year, that's what I was doing, and it didn't get me anywhere. And, getting to where I am now opened my eyes to how jaded I used to be. And I honestly just can't believe that I was the way I was. I like to think that I've matured a lot in my career and in my life. It's difficult when you first start, but don't give up. And always remember, no is one of the most important words in pro wrestling. So pay your dues and don't be afraid. Work hard and strive for every opportunity, because I promise if you put the work in, you'll get there.